Good afternoon, everyone. This is Clark Fritchell, regional instructor on the West in Orange County, Newport Beach. I just want to personally thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to join me on this call this afternoon. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Darren Sugiyama. Many of you know Darren. In 2009, Colonial Life retained Darren as a consultant to help us on our broker marketing, and in the process, it became apparent that Darren had developed systems that we really needed help with. So starting in 2010, Colonial Life contracted Darren to revamp our direct marketing approach, including developing a cold calling script for our agents. We flew Darren around the country to teach our agents his business model, and in fact, that year, we sent Darren to 24 different states. To give you a little background on Darren, he started out in the insurance industry in 2003, and he says that he had no idea what he was doing in the beginning. In that first year, he made less than $600 in commissions, and that was for the entire year. Yeah, you heard me correct. He made less than $600 during the first 12 months in the industry. He says that he realized that the conventional method of selling insurance wasn't working for him, so he did what no one else was doing in the insurance business at that time. So he started cold calling. He said that people laughed at him when he told them his master plan. Well, the second year in the business, he made a little over $370,000 in commissions. From there, things started to skyrocket. In the third year, his insurance agency did over $20 million in premium. And in his seventh year in the business, he topped $37 million in sales. In recent years, his agency has been recognized as the #2 producing firm in California for Aetna, #1 in Orange County with Blue Shield, #1 in the country with HealthNet, #1 in the country with Kaiser Permanente, and #1 in the country with Benefits Mall, the national's largest groups benefits wholesaler. Darren's entire business has been driven by cold calling and was built with a bunch of recent college graduates with no insurance experience. In fact, when I talk to Darren, he says that he will not hire anyone with insurance experience. He gets them and licenses them himself, trains everyone from the ground up. So Darren owns 5 different companies and is nationally renowned motivational speaker and acclaimed author. His first book, How I Built a $37 million Insurance Agency in Less Than 7 Years, and a tell-all book, How He Built His Insurance Empire. And this year, he just released his second book entitled Living Outside the Cubicle, The Ultimate Success Guide for the Aspiring Entrepreneur. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Darren Sugiyama.
Okay, thanks, Clark. Let's go ahead and get started here. So, when I first started working with Colonial, I got a lot of pushback from agents all over the country about this whole cold calling thing because no one wants to cold call. And I get it. I think in every business, regardless of the industry, there's always going to be things that you like about what you do, and there's going to be things that you dislike about what you do. There's no business where you're going to like 100% of everything that you do 100% of the time. That's just being unrealistic. I always tell people that if I could find a job that paid me $12 million a year to hang out on the beach, go surfing, and get foot massages from Victoria's Secret models, I'd probably quit the insurance business. But the problem is, to my knowledge, that job doesn't exist. If you ever find out that it does, give me a call. So, sure, there are going to be some things about your career that you just ain't going to like, and cold calling is probably one of them. Well, I just did a little exercise with some of my guys in my office yesterday, and I basically told them to get out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle, and on the left side of the paper, make a list of everything that you like about your career. In other words, make a list of all the elements about your career that appeal to you, emotionally. And then on the right side of the paper, make a list of all the things about your career that you find unappealing. And here's what they came up with. So for the things that they found appealing, they included things like income potential with no salary caps, having control over your own destiny, helping other people, personal development, experience of a challenge, the fact that we have a system and scripts put in place that have been proven to work over time. The fact that they have mentors that are willing to work with them on a day-to-day basis and help them. So those are the things that they said that they liked or that appealed to them. As for the things that they said were unappealing, surprise, surprise, #1 on the list, ding, 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 cold calling. #2, rejection. #3, the fear of the unknown. #4, them being unsure about their abilities, about their ability to succeed. And then the 5th thing was this element of risk. So the question that everyone always asks me is, how do I stay motivated regarding the quote-unquote unappealing list? In other words, all the things that show up on that list of unappealing things, how do you get over that? I usually just say, suck it up and get over it. but usually that doesn't work. That's not enough. Before we get into, figuring out how to overcome these kind of emotionally crippling questions, the first thing you've got to understand is really revolving around human psychology, human emotion, and human behavioral patterns. And so when you really think about it, we as human beings, we crave two things that appear to be in opposition to each other. There's the two emotional things that all human beings crave. The first one is security, and then the second one is adventure. So let's start talking about security. Okay, we all crave security to a certain extent. We crave financial security. We crave emotional security. We crave relationship security, which is why we get married. We crave security regarding our health. And we crave job security, right, or career security. The interesting thing, though, is that we also crave something that appears to be in direct conflict with our emotional craving for security. And that is, we also crave adventure, right? I mean, we crave excitement. We crave the feeling of anticipation of the unknown, all right, which is why we like watching, murder mysteries on TV, or suspense thrillers at the movies. So why am I talking about this? The reason is that you've got to understand something about human beings. And that is that most people think they want security in every area of their life. But you know what happens when you have ultimate security in every area of your life? You get bored. For example, I recently heard a story about a woman that used to date so-called nice guys. And these nice guys were very polite, and they were sensitive, and they were attentive, they were considerate, and they embodied everything that I would say most women would say they wanted. But you know what this particular woman said about these so-called nice guys? She said after a while, dating them, they became boring. So what did she do? She started dating the bad boys, all right? And she said, the bad boys, now these guys are exciting, they're dynamic, they're mysterious, they're spontaneous, but I'm always afraid they're going to cheat on me. And so basically what this woman was experiencing was the paradox of what I call dual cravings. Okay, what that means is she wants two things that appear to be in opposition to each other. She wants security, but she also wants adventure. Like here's another example of what I'm talking about. One of my big goals when I first started out in my business, one of my goals was to one day be able to afford to install a wave pool in my backyard. Now I know this sounds crazy, but let me explain what I'm talking about. The wave pool I'm talking about, I'm not talking about one of these wave pool things that creates like a stationary wave that you surf on a wakeboard, like they have on a cruise. I'm talking about a wave pool with waves that actually break, that you can surf on with a surfboard. Well, Kelly Slater, who's one of the greatest surfers of all time, is actually in the process of developing this technology to be able to do this. And I've mildly researched this, and I figure it's going to cost me somewhere around $15 to $20 million just for the equipment. Plus I got to get the land, which is going to be about 6 acres, which is going to be another $7 to $8 million bucks. And the ironic thing is that when I really thought about why I love surfing so much, part of it is the exhilaration of actually surfing the wave. If you've ever surfed before, you know what I'm talking about. But the more I thought about it, the biggest thrill of surfing is catching the perfect wave, or more specifically, it's searching for the perfect wave. So here I was thinking about how cool it would be to have this massive wave pool in my backyard that produced perfect waves, right? And every wave would be perfect. But then if every wave was perfect, right, every single time, the exact same perfect wave every time, what's going to happen over time? I'm going to get bored, right? I'd have ultimate security of knowing that I have perfect waves at my disposal whenever I wanted, guaranteed no shark attacks, no crowds, unlimited waves, but I'd eventually get bored. And you know why? The reason is because there'd be no adventure. Right, so how does this apply to your career, you're probably asking, right? Well, if you look at all the things that appeal to you about your career, most of these things are things that provide both security and adventure, right? So in this meeting that I had with some of my guys, I told my guys to kind of revisit the list of appealing / non-appealing things about their careers, and then to tag them, write the letter S and circle it for security next to the things that provided security, and then tag the ones that provided adventure with the letter A, and then circle that. So on the list of appealing things about their career, let's go back to that list. So one of them was income potential with no salary caps. I would define that as being an adventure, right? The second thing was control over your own destiny. All right, a lot of my guys said that provided a certain level of security for them. Helping others, that provided some adventure for them. The idea of helping people that they didn't previously know. Personal development would be another adventure. Experiencing challenge, that would be another adventure. The fact that there are systems and scripts in place that have been proven to work over time, well, that provided some security for them. And then the same thing goes with the fact that we have mentors here that are willing to help them succeed. Okay, that provided security. But then I also told them to look at the things that they found unappealing, so-called unappealing about their career. And I told them to change their perspective on these so-called unappealing things from things that they find unappealing and they worry about, and change their definition or change their perspective on those things to one of adventure. So if you look at the things that hit their unappealing list, one of them was cold calling. Well, I said, look, if you're cold calling, that's one big honking adventure, right? Because and the reason that's an adventure is that there's this unknown element, that there's a possibility that you might hit some really big groups, right? Plus, you're going to hit some groups that are just laydowns. They just close automatically, right? And so that's kind of exciting. Another unappealing thing about this career that they listed was the fact that they get rejected a lot. I said, well, look, just change your perspective on the rejection, being something that you worry about or something that you find unappealing, and tag that as being an adventure, right? Because what that means is that if you can honestly say, I think everyone can say this, that you're not going to get rejected 100% of the time, and so mathematically that means that sometimes you're guaranteed to get some wins as well. Okay, so that's an adventure. Which ones are going to be the wins? Which ones are going to close? That's an adventure. The fear of the unknown was also something that got tagged as being unappealing. But that is also an adventure, because if you knew the exact outcome in terms of your annual income, right? You'd have security, emotional security, that you're going to, you're virtually guaranteed to have this salary. But the problem is that you would have a cubicle job by definition, right? And the reason you got into this business was because you didn't want a salary cap. So look at the fear of the unknown. It's not the fear of the unknown, it's the adventure of the unknown. Same thing about people being unsure about their own abilities. Well, that's also an adventure, because if you lean on what's secure, which is our training system and the scripts and the mentors, that should give you some security, but that's also an adventure, because it's exciting to think about your abilities increasing. And then the last thing they said was unappealing was the risk. Well, I think that the risk is that's part of the adventure. I mean, if you never drive a car, right, you'll never risk getting into a car accident. But does that mean you should never drive a car again? Or, if you never eat food for the rest of your life, you'll never risk getting food poisoning. So you'll also die of starvation in the process. Hey, but at least you won't get food poisoning. You see how ridiculous that is? So without adventure, you'd be bored, okay? Which is why people with cubicle jobs hate what they do for a living in most cases, because there's no possibility of advance. There's no possibility of doubling their income. I was watching a video on YouTube, actually very early this morning, and it was a talk that Denzel Washington was giving to a university, and he said that when he started out, his career, and he would doubt himself from time to time. He said that his wife told him something that he never forgot, and it's a great quote. Pauletta Washington, Denzel Washington's wife, said, to get something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. And in this business, that thing that you've never done, that you have to do in order to get what you've never had, which is millions of dollars, is that you've got to enter the zone of being uncomfortable. And the only way to be successful, in my opinion, is you got to do two things. One, you've got to accept the fact that you're going to be uncomfortable from time to time. And two, you got to accept the fact that you're going to fail from time to time. So if you change your perspective on this, if you change your perspective and look at every quote-unquote potential failure as one, an opportunity to do something great, and two, look at it as an adventure, you've got a shot. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the call here. Clark, are you still on the line?
I am, yes, sir. I want to thank you very much. And one thing I would grab from your call is to encourage everyone to see the venture today and to paraphrase Mrs. Washington. If you want to obtain something you've never had, you need to do something you've never done. That's exactly what our guys are doing on the phones. And I want to thank you on behalf of everyone for giving us your time this afternoon to motivate us and get us on the phones and have a great second half of the day.